People always ask how I balance my family life with 400 shows a year. I'm just doing what I love with the people I love. It's my magic life.
I like Wes Iseli. I like everything about him.
All right, we are back, and this week we have a legend in magic. I could say that because I've seen the guy perform. I've fallen in love with the guy. He's like a brother to me. And his first podcast, go back and listen to it. It's awesome, but there was snafus, and for once it wasn't our fault, so that makes me... But go back and listen to it. Yeah. It was awesome. And he said, man, we saw him in Cancun this year, and he said, man, we need to come back on and redo that thing. Don't redo it. Let's just do more. So, Everybody, it's Dave Magee. What's up, buddy? How are you?
Oh, well, thank you. You're very kind. I don't know. You and the 7 other people that, no, you know what? Everything's great. I've had a really great underrated run, as I call it.
That's the best way to be. That's what
Yeah.
I was talking to Wes the other day, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago. But I was saying, if you make something out of yourself and you enjoy what you're doing, and you're not so famous like Taylor Swift, you can't leave your house, and you can go to the grocery store or whatever, I think that's the best of both worlds. Don't you? I think. I don't know. Maybe he wants the fame and glory, but...
No. I mean, you know what? I agree with you. It's really wild. Because like I said, in our industry, there's only a handful, really. Seriously, there's only a handful of mega, like you want to say Taylor Swift's, but there's one in our industry. I guess that would have to be, it's a President Copperfield, but there's a bunch of, people at the top there, but handful. But that's what's so strange about our business. I remember my mentor out of Buffalo, New York, Harry Carroll, one of the great trade show magicians, and the reason I got started in that business, told me in the music business, for instance, if you go into a bar and you hear somebody playing and they're average or they're okay, you go to see Kenny Rogers. There's a great guy, Kenny Rogers. He made it I can't remember the whole point that he made about it, but it was along the lines of they can see a bad country singer in a bar. That doesn't mean they're going to quit following Garth Brooks and Kenny Rogers. But if they see a bad magician and have a bad experience, that's all you ever hear about from the rest of every story they tell about a magician is going to be a bad experience.
And they don't like magic at all. They're like, oh, I don't like magic. I saw it once. You saw it once? Try it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys have been to the show. I literally start my show off every night by saying into the monologue a little bit. I say, if I do use you and you help tonight, I promise you 3 things. I won't embarrass you. I won't make you look stupid. I won't make a fool of you. I've been doing this for almost 30 years, and I found out early in my career that people don't need help doing those things. And everybody dies laughing, and it's the truth. I let myself be the blunt of the joke or the goof or whatever I'm doing, and it goes over, and from that point on they're comfortable. They know that they're in good hands.
Well, it's funny you say there's a handful of people in our industry. They still aren't Taylor Swift level. Mm-hmm. I think if you dropped Copperfield off at a local mall near our house, no one knows who he is. I teach at these homeschool groups, and the parents that drop off the homeschool kids, what are you teaching today? I'm going to teach them about Copperfield. Who? They don't know who he is. It's crazy.
No, you're right. And I would even venture to say that there are more people, because of their relevance, which is very, very smart, and they do it to sell tickets. They'll tell you that. More people are familiar with Penn and Teller than I think even any of these other guys, even David Blaine. I'll even go, even Chris uh, Angel. Chris Angel probably was more relevant, and David Blaine at the time when they were on TV. Here's the thing: if you're not constantly on television, like Taylor Swift or in these stories or whatever, you're lost. I mean, I ask people nowadays, what did you think about Johnny Carson being an amateur magician? Who's Johnny Carson? Like, God, that has not been that long ago. So this is the media. This is what's shown. And this is why guys and gals are working so hard to stay on TV, stay relevant. I remember Johnny told me that the reason Penn did Dancing with the Stars was simply to sell tickets and keep their name out there. Brilliant move. And they knew that in these medias that you have to continue doing that. And it's just like you guys being on this deal, this platform. It's important to keep your name out there in front of people. Any way that you can. And, you know, these things get downloaded, they get shared, they get posted in other places. And that's all brilliant, you know? But back to what Natalie was saying, I'm at the point in my life where I wanted that, but there's nobody knows who David Magee is. I can go on Mike Huckabee or whatever I'm at, but they don't have a clue in the world. But you know where they know me? They know me at the Grand Moon Palace Resorts. And that's the thing that matters the most to me in this moment. The people that I'm performing for, those are the ones that think I'm something. And that's really all that matters to me at this point.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about bad magicians. I'm writing notes as we're talking. Natalie had a good friend. It was a homeschool mother that they used to hang out with as the kids would play. And she said, I want to see your show, but I never get a chance. I never get a chance. Well, our theater show's coming up. Okay, I'll try to get it. And then she said, we saw a magician at the local library the other day. How was it? It was okay. He only messed up 3 tricks. That's not an option.
Only.
That's not an option.
Right.
And she knows nothing about magic, but knows that this guy bailed on 3 tricks. I don't care if it's a daycare center, a library show, a theater show. You gotta know your craft. You're making everybody look bad when you do that, because that's the people that say, I saw magic the other day, I don't like it.
Right.
You're messing everybody up.
Yeah, I know. And then you really, you know, it's a catch-22 because you really have to live the code of and this was hard for me when I was younger and bullheaded and more bullheaded than I am now. When you'd hear about a magician and you knew they weren't up to scale and they would say something, and instead of saying, oh yeah, he's horrible, you go, oh, well, I'm sorry that happened to you, because Johnny always told, back again, Johnny always told me, when you put down somebody like that, it just reflects on you, you know, and you want to. And I just would say, when they'd say to me they were bad, I'd say, oh, I'm sorry you had a bad experience, but you know what? Give them another shot or see another show, and then kind of just go on and hope they sweep it under the carpet. Oh, before we go any further, I just found this out, and I didn't want to start the whole thing off on a bring everybody down, but a wonderful, longtime buddy of mine in magic, very, very well known. I just found out right when they were posting it that passed away, John Rockenbomber from New Orleans, Louisiana. John was a monster in, I'd say, the 70s, 80s, 90s. One of those names that young guys now aren't going to know. A lot of people may know him, may not know him, but John was big in Genie Magazine. With Genie Magazine, he wrote a lot of stuff for them. He had a ton of books. He had some great lectures. I used to do a couple of his effects. Brilliant guy. He was an Ed Marlowe student, and he was just a great guy. I'll tell you a quick John Rockenbomber story. I'm performing at the Boomtown Casino in New Orleans, Louisiana. And at the time, we'll talk about it in a little bit, I was also doing a nationally syndicated radio character that was on 54 markets across the country. And John listened to the character with Crazy Eddie down on the station in New Orleans, and who was the DJ there. And I called John up and I said, "Hey, I'd love you to come to the show. I'll get you tickets. I'll set everything up." He goes, "Can I bring a friend?" I said, "Absolutely." So he brought a couple of buddies, and also he told another guy at the time that lived in New Orleans previous to Katrina, the hurricane hitting, Harry Anderson. And so he shows up. John and his buddies are sitting on one side of the theater. Harry and his wife were sitting on the other side of the theater. And one of the girls came back to the dressing room and said, "Mr. Magee, there's this gentleman out there that said to tell you," and it was John, "that Harry Anderson was in the crowd." And again, between me, you, and the fence post, John was every bit to me as big as Harry was. But he said Harry Anderson's in the crowd, and everybody knew Harry not as a magician, but as on Night Court, the movie, the TV series Night Court, and as an actor. So I said, "You're kidding me," and of course that put a ton of pressure on me. So I come out and doing the show. I say, "I'd like to introduce some guests. A lot of you won't know this one gentleman, but he's huge in our industry, blah, 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 blah. His name is John Rockenbauer. John, take a stand." John stood up, waved, and he sat down. And I said, "And there's also a gentleman that a lot of you are going to know here. His name, and you know him from Night Court, but he's an amazing magician." That's how he started. Harry Anderson. Harry, stand up. Harry, good to see you. Harry reaches into his jacket, pulls out a wireless microphone, and he says, "Well, thank you so much, Dave, and it's wonderful to be here this evening. Thank you for having me as your guest. And man, you're just killing it. You're doing." And he goes, "Oh, I carry one of these everywhere I go." And he puts it back in his deal and sits down. I mean, it just shook me off. I'm like, where did he get? Unbeknownst to me, he had tipped off the guy that was working the AV, and asked him, "Let me borrow one of your mics, and I'll give it back to you when I'm finished." And sat down, just always thinking about getting the laugh.
I have never heard
But just
that
a
before, but that's awesome. That is
Yeah.
great.
have you ever heard? Wes? Have you ever heard of either of you ever heard of John Rockenbauer?
So I know him from Genie Magazine. I mean, it must have been over a decade. He had every single month. John Rockenbauer had articles in there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant thinker. Again, a student of the Marlowe group. It's funny. Back then, there were little sect groups: the Vernon guys, the Marlowe guys, the so and so guy, but like little magic gangs. But a sweetheart of a man, and I think his heart just finally gave out. He'd been going down a little bit. My buddy Seth Kramer who's a trade show magician, had just been in New Orleans, and I sent Seth the info about it, and he didn't know, and he sent me a picture. He and John last week together had a meal at his home, and with Jessica, who John was with. And anyway, very sad. So anyway, I just thought I would say rest in peace. God bless to John Rockenbauer.
You know everybody. You know everybody.
No,
You also
no,
said Johnny, and for those that haven't heard your first podcast, when you say Johnny, you're talking about your good friend Johnny Thompson, who also
yeah,
Penn and Teller with their show. He helped you with your show. He was a legend in magic. For those that aren't magician fans that are listening just because they're listening to a podcast,
sure.
Johnny Thompson was a general practitioner. He knew everything about illusions and doves and silks and rope magic and everything. So I know he really helped you out. So you just say Johnny, but everybody needs to know Johnny Thompson. Yeah.
Well, I've said it a million times, Wes. I have been so fortunate to have lived during a time, the tail end for me, of getting to know some of the old guys from the castle. The Vernons and those guys, not know them well or anything or sit under them, but getting to know, in my opinion, the two greatest living general practitioner. Because as I told you before in other talks we've had, dinner and stuff, I said, when I asked Johnny when he was ill, I said, Johnny, you know, if anything, God forbid, ever happened to you, uh, who would you say I should use for consulting for the casino show? And he didn't even miss a lick. It was immediately Charlie Fry. And I'm like, wow. I said, I thought the same thing, but I wasn't sure. Uh, I think, honestly, Charlie may disagree in being humble and sweet, but I think he was even. You know what? There's one thing I don't know. If you're comparing apples to apples, Charlie juggled too. See, I don't think Johnny didn't juggle, but I don't know that Charlie could write music.
Right.
So one kind of, so I think they're really, you know, kind of on the same level. But Johnny told me, he says, yeah, definitely. When I'm 100%, I would say it will be Charlie Fry. And to have been able to work with both of these guys and get their counsel and learn so much from them, because Penn and Teller will tell you 100% that Johnny, I think the number was, Penn said once, 75% of their show was Johnny Thompson.
Wow. Do you remember Charlie Fry? Do you know that name? Do you remember him?
I remember the name, but I can't picture it.
He came to do a kidvention in D.C. And, you know, we do kid shows. We do everything we do is family. We don't do hokey kitty stuff. We try to play it right? So, you know, when it gets real kiddie, like Silly Billy type stuff, I don't need that prop. I don't need that. That's not my character. I feel like I can't pull that off. But I didn't go to the entire convention because it was teaching kiddie stuff, I thought. I don't know. But the Friday night, and we only went to the Saturday night gala show, but the Friday night show was Charlie Fry. And I was like, daggone it, we missed that. I'd like to have seen that. And I saw Charlie walk in the hallway, and I shook his hand and said, man, I'm sorry. I thought you were performing tonight. I would have come out a day early. And he said, oh, no, is this your little girl? And Lana was probably 4. And he got on his hands and knees and did linking rubber bands and then turned them into linking hearts and gave it to her.
Okay.
But he got on his hands and knees and just full attention for my daughter. As a dad, that means the world to me. I look up to Charlie Fry, and I'm like, that just meant the world to me. That's like a big hug.
And you know, the thing about that is, Natalie, that's Charlie.
Yeah.
That's not fake. And that all goes back to, I believe, that if you're going to be a clown, you have to have a heart, the heart of a child. And you have to be able to get on that level, understand that. I really do. I do believe that. I believe that's a special, special calling, a special thing. And he was one of the best. And he knew the best. He has some of the best. Oh my gosh. Hold on. Get out of here, Willie. My cat.
If you're only listening, this cat just walked right in front of the camera. It was hilarious.
Yeah, sorry about it. I didn't even see him because he came from my blind left eye side. I did not even see him coming.
You're good.
So anyway, Charlie, he has the shoes of, and I can't remember the guy's name, but just the clothing, the hats from some of the greatest clowners ever. And I've seen him in his home where he displays them. Charlie is just, Natalie, when he did that for your children, it wasn't a fake. It wasn't nothing. It was he meant that. It was as special to him as it was your child. That's the kind of human being that Charlie is. And Charlie and Sherry are both two of the dearest, wonderful people in this business. I mean, truly, they truly are. And again, I say this, I've been so fortunate, like to meet you guys, you know, to meet Tater, our friend who we cannot say his name, and
Mr. Potato Head.
you know, yeah. I mean, look at you. You can say the same thing. I mean, your experience with Penn and Teller. I mean, these guys think you hung the moon. You're the only one I think that's ever gone on that show that they took one of their effects and actually use it in the show. And so, you know, we're just very fortunate. But again, I'm not. And we go full circle back to the first. I'm just a guy that's been very blessed. to do what I do, and I see so many guys struggling. I see some guys, and I won't mention name online, that are constantly moaning the blues about not working and about not doing this and that. And I, I, I don't know. I worked really, really hard to get where I'm at, and I think a lot of times people see a position you're in and they think, well, he's not Blaine or he's not that. How does he have that? And it's just hard work, like Johnny always told me. Hard work, keep your head down. Don't get involved with all the gossip. Don't be in doing all the crazies. Just work. Just work and work as much as possible. And if you're not going to be big in the whole and known in the magic scene, um, do like I said a moment ago. Be big in in the scene that you're working in, and I just want to be a star in the Cancun area. Uh, and not even be a star, but just make the people happy, and when they leave, go, you know what? That was really a lot of fun. I laughed. I'd rather have them leave and say that guy was funny. He was hysterical. I busted up. I don't know how he does it, but I'd rather him elaborate more on the fun, and I've had a blast, and my kids love it. That's the biggest shocker to me. Now, kids, and I don't. Or, well, I know kids, but I mean, I don't understand kids like you do. That's a gift that you two guys have also. Um, I didn't think the mentalism was going to work when I came down, because out of the 5 places that I perform, the Palace Resorts exclusively, there are 2 of them that have families. The other ones are adult only. And I was totally freaking out. But I realized, because of technology today, kids are way smarter than anybody gives them. So we're getting reviews, TripAdvisor reviews, and somebody will come on and go, well, is this okay for an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old? Now, I would have told them no. And man, the people get on there. Oh my gosh, yes, we have an 8-year-old, we have a 10-year-old, and they loved it. They love the fun, because I'm involving kids now. It's changed even since you guys saw it. I'd love you to see the new segment that I'm doing with the 4 kids on stage and chairs. It's the interview part of it is just hilarious, because Art Linkletter hit the nail on the head. You never know what kids are going to say.
100%.
Um,
100%. Yeah.
you never know your response, and it's so great.
Yeah. Wow.
So
You
great.
gotta send me a copy of it. You gotta send me a tape. I'd love to
Yeah,
see it.
that's what I'll do. In fact, we're in December, we're having a crew come out, and we're going to film it because they want to start doing in-room commercials, like in the casinos. And I'll kind of host it and say, hey, this is David Magee, and we want to share with you some of the entertainment opportunities that you have at the Palace Resorts. And then kind of hit on everybody, and then at the end, introduce them to my thing and invite them. So yeah, so I'm looking forward. I stole that idea because I remember all the years I would go to Vegas, when I'd stay sometimes at Monte Carlo, you'd see Lance come on, and Lance would do his thing with hey, this is Lance Burton. Come enjoy the new Magic Wonders. And then people would be like, oh, yeah, I want to go see that. You got to plant that thought in their head, And because like Natalie hit the nail on the head too, people don't like magic for the most part,
Well,
or the premise.
the resort we stayed at this year was the same resort we stayed at last year, and I couldn't tell you the name of it. She might know.
Wyndham.
But I found out they have an app that tells you what nighttime shows there are. And they're like, oh, there's a
Yes.
magician that performs here. There is? Yeah, you just download the app. What night is it? I don't know. You just have to download the app. And she works day shift and timeshare. She's trying to sell you timeshare. So I'm like, all right. I went to every single show just thinking there was a magician in the variety show. The shows were horrible. They were I kept watching. It was like,
Was it lost in translation? Did she mean musician?
no, because I said, I'm Mago. I can't do a timeshare because I have resorts that I work, and I can't book a timeshare out a year in advance. You want me to pick my year now. You want me to pick my vacation time now. I can't do that. We try to do it that week in September,
Gotcha.
but it might not happen. No, she thought I was, because I showed her magic as well. But man, those shows were horrible. So your show compared to their show, it's Vegas and preschool chorus concert. I mean, that's what we saw.
Yeah.
Listen, I I got to tell y'all, I tell people all the time, when they come to the show, the residence members, there are levels here, as you said, timeshare. It's a little different at Palace. There's diamond members, there's resident members, and they paid a fortune, a lot of money. And they get preface on the front row seats and all this kind of stuff in the theater at the Grand Moon Palace. And I've had them coming to me and they're just like, we've been members for 10 years. And how did they even get you? How did they get? I mean, it's wonderful to hear. And then I look at them and I think, but then, Wes, you have to bring yourself down and realize your competition is a Michael Jackson Mexican guy. I call him Miguel Jackson. And there's 25 of them, and they're this. You could hide behind my finger, little skinny guys, and they're out dancing and doing Michael lip syncing. That's your competition, and then there's a lot of other stuff. I'm not going to get into it, but you saw them, and that's kind of the basic of what all of them are, and it's one of the reasons that I came here to work with the entertainment director, who's really great. And I said, I want to bring people like Charlie and Sherry Fry, funny people. I want to bring people like Mike Finney, just different, Godot and Christopher Hart, and do some variety shows and really give these guests something that they'll never forget. And we are working on that. And we are also working on a close-up experience.
Nice.
So there's some cool things happening.
All right, so I saw your mentalism show, and then because I didn't know you before Mr. Potato Head introduced me, and I didn't know, and you were a working magician, and we already talked about that on the other podcast. But
Yeah.
there was nothing negative about that. I'm working, you're working, and we don't cross paths.
Right.
Yeah.
But you did close up magic after the show, and I'm like, all right, well, he's fantastic at mentalism, but I gotta watch a mentalist do close up magic. Oh no! I walked up there, dude. Your chops were phenomenal. I was giddy as a school kid because I was like, "This is good. This is good magic. Holy crap! It was great. Your close-up magic's great."
Did I do the famous initial thing for you, Johnny's favorite deal?
You did the initials. You did some coin. Your coin work was phenomenal. You did some great stuff. Yeah. I loved it.
Well, thank you. That's sweet. I want other guys and gals to come here and have the opportunity to work for a week or two. We're working all the details out on how we're going to do it. It'll be the only place that I know of in the Cancun, 100% Cancun, and I don't know of all Mexico. But I want it to be similar to when you go to the Magic Castle, and it's elevated seating for around 50 people. And they may not even be 50 there. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But I want it to be around 50 or so. Some drinks, some hors d'oeuvres, and there'll be a way to be able to work it in with the credits and things that they have there. So I think that it's going to be cool. But I'd love to bring guys in. And double threats would be somebody like Charlie and Sherry. They could do their evening show, and then 2 or 3 nights a week they could. The other times they could do the close up, because Charlie is phenomenal on close up. I mean, just off the chain. And so, yeah, there'd be a lot of opportunities for people to come in and work a week or two, whatever we're going to work that out, and be in paradise. I mean, have all day to do what you want to do. You know, Michael Godot wants to come. Godot loves to kite surf. So he wants to come down here and kite surf, some of the best, in the world.
Never in a million years
So
would I have put those two together. Kite surfing and Godot. I would never have put those two together. Who knew?
huge. Huge. Well, I don't know. Did you know? The things you learn? Did you know that Michael, who is very dear friends with you, as you well know, Penn and Teller, especially Penn, that Michael when I was going to Lance Burton back when he was at the Hacienda, and I'm going to ask Michael to correct me on this if I'm wrong. I don't think I am. He missed a good amount of time there as Lance's middle act, because he was skydiving, fell out of or jumped out of a plane or something, hit the ground, and I want to say like I don't see how he stayed alive. He broke I mean, it was unbelievable. It took him a long time to heal. I got to revisit him on that. But that to me, I would never kite surf. I wouldn't do anything involved with being in the air again.
Ooh,
I've never heard anything about that. I've never heard. And
Yeah, I'm gonna follow up, and I'll let you know in the next day or so. But I know I'm almost 99%. I'm sure about that he hurt himself
Oh,
pretty badly.
I think it was January
Yeah.
2022.
yeah.
Is that when I went to when I went to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the Society of American Magicians National Convention.
Mhm.
And I see Godot, and we don't know each other, but I guess we know each other a little bit. You know what I mean? I know him because he was Lance Burton's guy, and I hear him on Penn's podcast and stuff, and he knew me, I guess, and he was like, "Hey, good to meet you finally." And Penn mentioned you again today on the air. I'm like, "All right, I have to Google it, I have to listen." That was my cool thing. That was my one time only ever meeting Godot. Yeah,
Oh, that's funny.
yeah.
Aw.
Michael's another one of those just super fantastic. Known him for 25 years, and just super 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 guy,
And
and a close buddy to many people in magic.
he's on the East Coast now, right? Didn't he move out of Vegas?
Yeah, yeah. He moved out of Vegas. I want to say like North Carolina, South Carolina, something like that. Uh, and he gets to kite surf. He's got something near him that he gets to do it. But I don't know. Here, at least, he doesn't have to worry about dodging alligators. So, out in the ocean.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, he didn't have that in Vegas.
yep. But
Mm-mm.
no, he didn't. No, not at all.
I don't.
No, not at all.
Skydive probably. That's where
Yeah.
he skydived.
Right. That's what he's saying.
Uh, all right, so your Grand
No.
Moon Palace is not like the resorts we stay at there. Your Grand Moon Palace was
High end.
very high end, very
Yes.
fancy.
Yes.
Oh my gosh! When I walked into that theater room, that was right out of Vegas. How many
Seems
seats?
nice.
How many seats are in that room?
We hold right at 1,100.
Wow.
It is a beautiful theater, beautiful setup. Having
Yeah.
your name in lights right there when you first walk in, that it looks so great, so professional. You got sound team there.
Yeah.
You just walk in with the daggone briefcase. You make me jealous. We're lugging equipment all the time. You show up to work and you just
No.
open it up and you're done. Hey, it's so funny. Yeah.
That's great though.
I'll tell you, I have lived a very charmed, blessed life, and I've say it over and over and over again. But from all the things that I've done, it's like you look back on it and it's just steps of I was in this and I started in restaurants, loved magic and started in restaurants, got into trade shows. And Harry told me early, he said, Dave, you're not going to want to still do those restaurants because you're going to be making a lot of money in trade shows. You're not going to want, no, I love it. I love it. Well, 5 months later, I'm booking it on trade shows and I dropped the restaurants. So a couple of years at restaurants made my living, believe it or not. Made a living from like 7 or 8 restaurants and didn't do tips, made sure that the place paid me. So I had regular, income. And that was I was, early on. And then went into trade shows. When the trade shows into corporate, which was big, trade shows for a lot of years. Got to meet great guys like Danny Orleans, Seth Kramer, Paul Gertner, Harrison Carroll, my mentor. There's just a ton of them. And then moved into corporate and love that. Still doing that. I go back to the U.S. a couple of nights a month to do one-nighters and then fly home. And then into the casino deal, which was the biggest thing for 13 years of my career. And then COVID, and then bang here. I mean, it's just like, it's just so bizarre. You know what? It's very odd. I talked to Lance Burton about this. Lance and I are opposites of flip flop in our careers. Lance started, well, he did the nightclubs and stuff, but he built up to the casino in Vegas, had the big casino show, and at the time, highest paid in Magic. I mean, it was huge, and the contract at the Monte Carlo, and so all the years of Monte Carlo, superstar TV, live shows. Then when he was done, he segued into a bus tour with Fielding West, Michael Goudreau, Keith, a couple of gals that do, and now they do these casino Lance Burton and Friends shows. Uh, and I just, you know, I was the opposite. Um, I did all these traveling around and did all these little things and trade shows and making a living wherever I could. And now I'm at a full-time theater gig. I do meet and greets just like he did, which I learned to incorporate because I watched Lance Burton do it. Lance Burton watched country artists do it when he opened for them, like Johnny Cash, and all the big names, Steve Wariner, and he learned how to do that Tombstone when he was doing it, and then saw how they treated people and how it paid dividends. Same with me. Uh, when you get to know those people and you start seeing them come back and back and back again to your show, and the marvelous thing to me, and that I stand back and look at here and go, why? But I've had people that are at my show, and I've put them on video and put them online for people to see, that have been to this show 14, 15, 16 times and go, I can't wait to 17. And they all say the same thing. It's different. Every single time it's different. It's different words, it's different cards, it's different reactions, it's different pets, whatever. So in their minds, it's different. It's not like you go to see a show and you know that the guy's going to produce a dove here, and or you know that you've seen it once or twice. Okay, I've seen it. It just baffles me, and I'm not questioning it because I'm certainly happy that they're doing it, but again, it gets me back to that thing, Wes, and I know you have to know some of these people that are just moaning the blues constantly, and they air everything out there online. I can't get work. Why can't I get work? And then they'll get a few shows and everything's good. And I can't get, well, I can't, I need another. And it's almost like, look, dude, if you're this miserable, just get a real job. I say get a real job like we don't have real jobs, but I mean, don't do it. I mean, can you imagine being that miserable, Wes?
No.
No. I feel like a kid, man. I get to do this for a living. I'm
Right.
so lucky to do this. We know a big name magician. I won't tell you. I'm not going to say it on the air, but they had a contract where, hey, you have to work 15 minutes a night. We're going to give you $5,000 a week, and this was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But you have to do the same act every night, and they were miserable. They hated it because they couldn't be an artist and they couldn't
switch it up.
So you're doing 15 minutes a night. 15 minutes a night. You got 24 hours, 23 and 45 minutes a day to do anything else you want. You just have to do that 15 minutes, and they're miserable. And people can find anything to be mad about. Anything.
I'm going to tell you, I do the same 50 minutes, 45 to 50 minutes every 4 nights a week, and some 5. And I say some 5. I do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then every other Saturday. I'm always off Fridays and Sundays, but every other Saturday, I work at one of the other Palaces resorts, a family resort, and it's the same show, but it's just I love it.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get there. I can't wait for it to be. Oh, I've gotten a thing that I've been playing around with now just to keep me. I'll sit in the audience and I'll keep my jacket down on my lap like it's a blanket or something. I'm maybe a guy that gets cold, and I keep my headset under it. And it's about towards the middle left side or right side. I change it up sometimes from the back. And as the thing comes on the intro, and blah 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 blah, and now, ladies and gentlemen, I reach up when he's talking and I put the thing on and I put the jacket and people are looking at me beside me. They've been sitting the whole time and my face is up on that thing, that big screen the whole time. Like you're not very perceptive. And they'll go, oh my God, that's him. There he is. It's just so funny to watch people's reactions. So
They,
I change it up. You know, I
they just want to touch you at that point.
do what?
They just want to touch you at that point. You're the
Yeah.
star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is so weird, but it's a cool little thing for them. And again, I'm a nobody, but at that moment to them, I'm the guy.
Right.
So I find it so funny how they react. And then they come up afterwards, can we get pictures, you know? And I don't know. It's the greatest joy and feeling to be able to do what you just absolutely love. And on the way to work, I'm listening to my songs. I'm getting pumped up. I can't wait to see what the reaction is going to be from one of these kids tonight. We're going to have a hilarious response, I know, and every night and it just does not disappoint me.
We have this farm that we're working.
Doesn't disappoint.
We have this farm we're working in October. We have 45 shows this month at the farm. So we work the last 2 weeks of September and every weekend through October. It was 45 for the contract.
Yeah.
They love us so much. They were like, can you do a little bit more? We want you longer hours. So next year we're doing 60 shows for them. Well, I love it. I love it.
Really?
Yeah.
But see, that's the thing. The reason you're doing 60 is because they see how the people react. They see that you guys love what you're doing. It's a contract with you and you guys and those folks that you're working for. But you know what? It's more than that. You get to be friends with these people. You start getting a following. And the great thing about that with kids coming back, people love traditions. Mm-hmm. And if you can tell those people you're working at, you know what? I sure do appreciate the opportunity to build a tradition with you guys. We have people telling us online and emails that they love bringing their kids here and seeing us here. And 20 years from now, they're going, now what are you doing? You're psychologically telling that person and you're putting a thought in their mind and they're thinking, wow, yeah, this is a tradition. They like to come out to the pumpkin patch or the Christmas patch or whatever. And when they see Wes and his wife and Natalie and see their show and that we see them talking afterwards with these people, man, that's great. But see, here's the deal. Here's the difference in you and I. That's how we think.
Yep.
Now, go back to that person. I don't want to make it a complain fest. I'll use that word. But back to that person that's so disgruntled. So I think I don't know that they know how to use the psychology and the business of business. A lot of guys get in this, and you hit it right out of the park a minute ago when you said the friend didn't get to be artistic.
Right.
Yes, they are. But they're doing something that someone has asked you to do. You can find ways within that area to be artistic. I'm coming up with new lines for the same show all the time. And I go back and say to Barb afterwards, I'll go, oh my gosh, 20 years. I've never thought of that. And it just popped into my head out of nowhere. So these guys are getting into this and making the biggest mistake in the world. They think it's about magic and they think it's about them. Well, they're sadly mistaken. And you just proved that wrong. It's you got the right recipe for the deal. So you keep doing that, man, and you're going to keep doing what you love. You're going to keep feeding your family. You're going to keep doing it the real way. And you're a businessman. That's what it all, and businesswoman. And you're a team. And that's another thing. You're really very blessed that you do have Natalie, and I'm very blessed that I have Barbara, because I would not be, and I think you would agree without me even saying this, that you would not be in the position you are without Natalie.
100%.
Those are the successful female teams. Charlie and Sherry. Johnny would tell you 100% he wouldn't be where he was at without Pamela. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And those of us that are in that situation are very, very fortunate. I bet you Bill Malone would tell you he wouldn't be where he is without Barbara. his wife. So I'm telling you, it is so important to learn the business of this show
Well,
business, and that's what most of them don't know.
you hear musicians all the time that don't want to play the hits. You're doing it for yourself now. You're not
Yeah,
doing it for your
exactly.
audience.
I want to do something new.
Right, right.
Right.
And we just did a
I want to do something new. You know, I've been doing it for 20 years. That coin thing you saw, 25, 26 years. 26, almost 27 years.
I love it.
And I'll have people that will come up to me at corporate deals and they'll say, "You know what, Dave?" And I had dinner with them the night before and there were 20 of us and we cleared the table and I did a close-up show. And they'll come up to me and say, "Dave, you know what? I love your stand-up show. It's unbelievable. I mean, I'll never figure it out. But I got to be honest with you. I love that up close stuff that you do." Now, let me tell you, it took me a long time to figure that out. And it would almost like make me go, "Really?" But the reason they do is because it's intimate and it's personal. And you're looking eye to eye, you're talking to those people, they feel special. That's why I told the Palace I want to build this close up room and make it a unique entity there, and something that will just blow everything else out of the water, because people, Natalie said, they don't like magic because they haven't seen good magic.
And
Right.
All right,
especially up there.
these people love you at that farm. Well, the people love you guys at that farm because they're seeing good magic. They're seeing quality performance. I'm telling you, there's a lot of guys out there performing that should not be out there. Their personalities, the way they are. I'm sorry, it's just the truth. But you know, it's like that in music. But again, back to Harrison saying, people won't quit going to see Kenny Rogers because they see a bad guitar player in a bar, but they dang sure will when they see a bad magician. They'll never want to see another one.
Yeah.
We take pictures after our show at our resort shows and our farm show. I mean, every show we pose for pictures. People love, you were talking about the tradition and the history. People love going back on their phone and show me a picture of me with their kid who's now has kids that they're bringing to my show and showing me, Natalie's like, "Oh, does that make you feel old?" No, that makes me feel like they like my show that much that they're bringing it back generational.
Yeah.
That's an awesome thing, man.
Let me share one thing that is right. And along those lines, when you said that, it popped in my head. And I don't think this guy is going to mind me. I'm going to say his name.
Don't.
He was on Fool Us, and he fooled him.
Okay, all right. Don't get in trouble.
He fooled him. Oh no, I'm not going to get in trouble. This
Okay,
isn't a negative. This is a
okay.
positive. But I want to share. I support the guy, and he's from Dallas. His name is Zach Mers, and Zach Mizrowski, Zach. I don't know Zach how to say Zach's last name, but he fooled Penn and Teller with the stab of the cards thing. I don't know if you know him, but he is a worker. He goes out and he busts his tail. In a lot of ways, he reminds me of me when I was early on. Got a wife and a new little baby, and he was really having struggles with some of these theater shows. And then we called me and we talked, and I think this is so important. And this is what I've learned. It is so important to share your ideas with younger magicians. Anybody out there that's listening, that's older, and that wants to go down this path of these guys that were known for never sharing anything, real jerks. I could name you two or three of them, and were well known, some of them. But just like, well, I'm not sure about. Well, that's how people learn, and that's how you make the next generation even better. All right. And I shared one tip with him, and he called me back, and he was very grateful. And I'll share it with you after we go off the air. And he shared, and he said, "Holy smoke, it is completely changed. Now it's made it more profitable for me." Well, that's the bottom line, to make it more profitable for him, because you want to be able to feed your family and you want to be able to make investments and you want to be able to save and do the right thing. And so, one little thing, but let me tell you, the majority of guys don't want to tip anything. I encourage people because it's helped me with Johnny. It's helped me with from Charlie and a lot of Harrison, a lot of other guys. I really do stand on the shoulders of a lot of guys.
So
I really honestly do.
I think the not tipping stuff is like a famine mentality. There's enough work for everybody. There is enough work for everybody. So
Absolutely.
they're afraid if they tip their hat, oh, they might lose a job or that. I don't want you getting that theater, so I'm not even going to tell you I'm working that theater. They're afraid to promote it on their social media, thinking somebody else will come in and snag it. You're doing it wrong.
Right.
That's the wrong way of doing it.
Well, I'm going to, excuse me, dry throat here. I'm going to go out on a limb and say another thing. I think these magic conventions where you continue to go year after year after year after year, all different conventions, and you're seeing the same people over and over and over for the most part, the nucleus. They keep rehashing them. Wait 2 or 3 years, bring them back, do their act again. There are so many unknown people. But here's the difference. They want somebody to fool the magicians that they think can fool the magicians. So they're getting these great technical guys and this and that. But a lot of the great technical guys are there because they don't do shows that much. I mean, does that make sense?
Hey,
Yeah.
They're technically great.
I was 15 years into the business attending conventions before I realized that 98% of the people that are on the poster, that are on the bill, magic's not even their full-time job.
Right.
I'm going to a lecture.
Exactly.
I'm going to a lecture to hear this guy talk about business and how to increase your business, but he's just making it up. That's not even his full-time job.
Or they're not giving you in a lecture, they're not giving you their real working material.
That's the other 2%.
They've come up with some stuff the night or week before
Right.
so they can share it. And the truth is simply, I'd love to go to a convention, a no-name convention, with 15 or 10 or 15 people and doing lectures that are really out in the trenches in the real world that have been turned down and that have been struggling and now are doing really well, but not a lot of people know. I can list you 8 to 10 of them right now that I know that are making small fortunes. I mean, crazy, really making great money, and nobody knows who they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the guys that need to be sharing the stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's just the craziest thing.
All right. So before we wrap everything up,
Absolutely.
you've talked 20.
Yes, sir.
Last podcast, I think you mentioned it. This podcast, you mentioned it. You said you get back to it. Tell me about your radio character. I don't know about that.
I had a character that I did while I was on the road at trade shows. And I would get up in the morning in Dallas, Texas at 5:30. I did it. It started out as a joke to a couple of guys that I knew on the air. Kind of knew one of them. He was a comic. And he was a sidekick. And this was the #1 radio station in the country, which was another blessing. If you're going to start something, you did it on the best. And I called in and did this voice and a character called the Deacon. And I did it as a joke on one of their little call-in things one day. Well, the next day they put out an all points bulletin. Hey, we had this gentleman, the Deacon. They thought I was this old guy. And he called us and we'd like you to call in our front desk and they'll put you through. Right. Well, friend of mine, my wife called me. Hey, they're talking about you on the radio because she listened to country music. I did. I said, okay. So I called and they put me through to this deal and he goes, look, we'd like to talk to you a couple of times a week if you don't mind. And I said, sure. And I just did these funny songs. I did these bits and character things. And I'll send you a CD of some of the stuff and you'll get it.
Oh, hey.
And real Southern type humor. And the next thing you know, I get to be friends with a guy named Bob Kingsley, who was the Casey Kasem. Casey Kasem was a guy that used to have like Rick Dees or whatever that had the countdown every week from Los Angeles.
I know.
Well, he had it for country music, so they said, "Hey, you need to syndicate this thing." So, long story short, I didn't know what that was. We went to a country radio, syndicated it to over 54 stations across the country for 20 years. It was the
Wow.
longest live running, li- it was the longest live interactive comedy feature in the history of radio.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Wow. All right, so now I need a sample. Can I hear the voice? Yeah.
Can you hear me? I got interrupted there.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had a real raspy Southern voice like this, and he was deep.
No, you're still here.
I'm right here. I'm right here. That is crazy. That is
Okay, you went off. So do what?
That didn't sound like you at all. Wow.
Say that again.
I said that didn't sound like you at all. That was
No. If you cover the face, it's like if you cover the face, it's it's like, hey, good morning, Mr. Darcy. How you doing today? So I've always done voices. That's why I always did Johnny's voice, and every year on Fielding West's birthday, he has run requests that I call him that day and do a whole Johnny bit for him. And I mean, he rolls and laughs, and he's just such a hoot.
so. Help me. You're a little,
Gosh, I miss Johnny Thompson so much.
you're a little older than me.
Do what now?
I said you're a little older than me, so I'm trying to figure this out. How close is that Deacon to Wolfman Jack? I hear a little Wolfman Jack in it.
Not really. Yeah, you
Okay.
could maybe hear a little bit of that, but that was because it was raspy. Now Wolfman Jack was way down. He had a
Oh.
real deep voice, and he was real. but it wasn't. It was more of a made after this old preacher that I knew in Shreveport, Louisiana, that worked for my father. Delman Brown was his name. Had a voice just from smoking cigarettes for many, many years. He did, and but yeah, that's where it came from.
Wow. Wow. So before we
So
wrap
it was a lot of fun. It was a blast.
before we wrap everything up, I did some research, just going down the rabbit hole, trying to find Dave Magee stuff. I found that blindfold drive, and I put it on the Magicians Facebook group. You said you did that a couple times.
Yeah,
That was crazy.
I did it the first time with Mark Cuban. I did it with Mark Cuban, and we did it for a big car dealership and raised $35,000. We drove 8 miles from a place called Whataburger. It was an eating place, and from Whataburger all the way back to Prestige Ford, and I drove up on a ramp, and it was unbelievable. Then the second time I did it was for a fundraiser, and the third time I did it was for the TLC show called Seeing versus Believing, and it was a deal on the Learning Channel, a special,
So
and really, really a cool.
when you said Mark Cuban, was that somebody named Mark Cuban, or was that the billionaire Mark Cuban?
Billionaire Mark Cuban.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why when you were at the show, at the show, when you see the original introduction, Mark is one of the people that introduces me on the show.
Dude, I can't remember all those people. You had so many celebrities.
So many, yeah.
I can't remember all of them. Yeah. That's crazy, man. Golly.
That's awesome.
You're awesome.
Well, it's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying life. Happy to be here. I've got a dear friend down here. I don't know that you've met him yet, but the next time y'all come, I'm going to make sure you meet him. Sebastian Perrin, great illusionist, great sleight of hand guy. Oh, holy smoke, he fools me left and right. But I want you to meet him the next time you guys come back in with or without Tater.
Well, I tell you, Natalie bailed on that dinner. I really enjoyed that that Italian restaurant.
I didn't bail. It's just we didn't have a car big enough to get there, and it would have been crazy to take an Uber. So I was just like,
you've got those kids.
Yeah.
The kid. You had the kids. You had your niece or who, and You had a lot going on.
Yeah.
Hey, but how great was that Italian restaurant? That place was amazingly good. I was telling her, wow, that was good.
And it was even better because Tater picked up the tab.
Well, that's why it was so delicious. I love Tater. Tater's awesome. Tater's awesome.
That's great.
Dude, hey, we got through it. No mess ups, no disconnections. We got through a podcast, man. DaveMagee.com, is that where everybody finds?
Awesome.
DaveMagee.com?
Yeah, David, www.davidmagee.com if they want to be bored and go through some of that stuff, they can.
No, now if they go to Cancun and they want to find you, they have to go to the Moon Palace Resorts. How do they have to? They want to go to your show. I highly recommend it.
If they do, they have to be a guest, a resident, or a diamond member, staying at the hotel. If they stay at Nizook, they can see me at Nizook. Basically, it's Monday at LeBlanc, Tuesday at Nizook, Wednesday at the Sun Palace, Thursday at Grand Moon Palace, and every other Saturday at the Beach Palace. Yeah, I'm the only performer here that works exclusively for the Grand Moon Palace.
Nice.
Hey, if you're gonna pick a place, you picked a nice place, man. Golly, it's beautiful there.
Oh, it's one of the tops, and it really is just amazing. They're phenomenal people. They're global too. They've got places in Jamaica, Italy. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, we're gonna keep in touch because I want to see how this close-up show comes about. I know you've been talking about it for a while. I can't wait. We'll get you back on. We'll talk about it when you get that built.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, seriously, both of you, Wes and Natalie, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it a lot. You guys are awesome.
Thanks for all your time. Last week we dealt with this for 30 minutes. We were having problems.
Right.
You were such a saint. You were like, we'll just do it next week.
Yep.
Somebody else could have got mad at me, dude. You're the best. Thank you. Because I still don't know what happened last week.
Well,
but thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Hey, only thing we have left to say is
adios.
See you next week.
Check us out online at wesisley.com and patreon.com/Wes_Isley for behind-the-scenes videos, blooper videos, never-before-seen footage, discounts on merchandise, magic trick tutorials, and more. That's Wes Iseli, spelled WESISELI.